Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another great episode of Journeys of Challenge. Journeys of Challenge is a recently started podcast which we're focusing on real people, real challenges, and real opportunities for growth. We recognize that in life, not everything is always rosy and full of sunlight, but there's clouds, and sometimes we have to deal with the clouds and come up with solutions for the challenges that we find ourselves in. And tonight, we're honored to have a very, very special guest, an old friend of mine, someone I go back over 30 years, I believe, even though he doesn't look that old. But Meyer Brull and I were in high school together in yeshiva back over 30 years ago. And today he's the director of development of Bikur Cholim in Lakewood, Rachel Bikur Cholim in Lakewood, a very prominent chesed organization in the Northeast. And we're honored to have him with us tonight. So welcome, Mayor, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I really, as you were talking, was doing the math, and I think 30 years just about really hits the nail on the head, and that's how long we go back. And it's awesome. I thank you for the opportunity. I mean, we got to meet a lot of the wonderful Muspalim in your shul when they came to visit last year, and we're looking forward to their visit again this year, Mitzvah Shem.
Yeah, looking very much forward to that, and thank you for hosting us last year. And I just want to start at the very beginning because, as Jews, we are one of our most cherished values is chesed and Bikur Cholim. And this week's parsha, we see with Avraham, he was visited by the angels, by the malachim right after his bris milah at a very elderly age, and he launches into chesed mode, and really this was triggered Sorry about that. We have some, looks like the
No
storm
problem. Got you back? Okay, we're good?
I think so.
Okay,
Not sure. Should we
amazing.
restart from the beginning or?
Ask your question.
Okay, so Mayor, before speaking about any specifics, I just wanted to kind of take a step back and talk about the purpose of having a Bikur Cholim organization. What would you say the purpose, the mission is to have a Bikur Cholim organization?
Okay, so I think as Jews, we sort of take some of the things that the Bikur Cholim organization does for granted. So it's something I think that most people who've used the hospital in the tri-state have come, and beyond, obviously, many other communities have come to take for granted. But taking it a step, back, I think what it is the basic goal and mission to make sure that a patient and their family who are going through a medical situation, whether it's for something good like having a baby, or unfortunately many times for a more difficult medical situation, the mission and the goal is that they should have whatever they need, whether it's accommodations near a hospital, whether it's food in the hospital, whether it's transportation, getting a patient to a doctor's visit. All these services are things that are provided for a patient and their family going through a medical situation. So I think that is something that many people who live in a community that have a Bikur Cholim sort of take for granted. And it's something that's been going on for many, many years. As you said, goes back, to biblical times, really. And it's something that we as Jews have always done. And as our organization grows and other Bikur Cholim organizations have grown, we go and we do even more and more.
Right. Okay. So thank you so much. Just want to touch upon that for a moment because, you mentioned about the array of assistance that the organization provides to beyond strictly the medical care of the patient. So there's this whole host of issues that can develop, Rachmana litzlan, when somebody is ill, it can affect their emotional well-being. It can affect the finances of the family. It's a big financial drain. It can affect the family, where they're going to be for Shabbos, and if one of the parents is ill, how they're going to get Shabbos food, and so on and so forth. So I guess there's this idea in terms of Bikur Cholim to take care of the entire patient and the entire family, and not just treat the disease, so to speak. So that being said, can you give us a sense of the scope of the services and programs that the Lakewood Bikur Cholim offers to the patient and their family to kind of take care of the whole situation, not just strictly treat the disease, which what the healthcare providers are for.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. The doctors, the nurses, they're there to treat a patient. And Bikur Cholim's role is, I think, everything beyond that. And the services that we provide, I'll try to give over, but it really isn't limited even to that. There are many more services that we do beyond probably what I'll remember off the top of my head. And really, our goal, like I said, is to try to do whatever it is to make the patient and his family's time during this, medical difficult time, medically, challenging time, that much easier. So our core services include food. We have in 14 hospitals, 18 pantries, which have all sorts of basic food, from danishes and crackers and cookies and just basic staples, tradition soups to meals. We have a full commercial kitchen, as the members of your community saw. We have over 4,000 meals that are produced from our kitchen. They go to hospitals, patients in hospitals, family members staying with patients in hospitals. Additionally, we also provide patients and their families who are at home meals that are delivered by our volunteers. We have a tremendous army of volunteers, which I guess we could discuss in a little bit also, who package and deliver the meals. And this goes on every day. It goes on Shabbos. It goes on Yom Tov. It's really a very, very large scale food operation. And we have a team of workers in our kitchen. We have a team of volunteers that package and a team of volunteers that deliver. And additionally, we have a team of volunteers that stock the hospital pantries and deliver food to patients in hospitals as well. So that's our food department. We also have a equipment department.
But before you move on, just talking about the food department, you mentioned 14 hospitals. Was it 14 hospitals that you have food for? So now, is there any charge for the people to access these snacks or meals, or is it provide anyone could just go and open access it? Just give us a sense.
So it's not just limited to the food. The question really I'll answer before we get to the other services is everything Bikur Cholim does is free of charge. There is no charge. I get calls regularly. People say, hey, you sent my family member a meal. I want to pay for it. And another person will call and say, hey, I was in the hospital for Shabbos and we had a full Shabbos spread. I'd like to pay for it. And my answer is always the same. I will not give you a price because there is no price. We don't charge. They said, but I want to make a donation. I said, if you'd like to make a donation, your donation will go towards making sure the next person will have a meal, paying it forward. And everything Bikur Cholim does is free of charge. And I will say, from the feedback that we get, the food that's provided is really top, really no corners are cut. We only use the finest foods, and Hashgacha is top of the line. We have the KCL. All the chickens and meat are Hasidic Shechita, and anyone from just about anywhere will be comfortable with the kashrus level. And we are just here to be able to make the patient and their family member comfortable with whatever it is, the type of food. So we have a variety of food. If people want dairy foods, there's also yogurts and cheeses and all sorts of dairy items and bagels and cream cheese, that type of food. And then you have also parva foods like tuna fish and egg salad. And then you have also meat meals. You have every night a meat type of supper. And of course, the Shabbos meals include full Shabbos spread from the challah fish, chicken soup, chicken, kogol, desserts, and Shabbos day meals with cholent and kogol, kishka. And you have really, really a full Shabbos spread without missing anything. Comes Yom Tov, we have roasts and salmons, which we do on Shabbos also. But we have really, really a full Shabbos Yom Tov spread every day, full food like a person would have in their home, and probably sometimes even better.
Wow. So what is the process? I mean, if somebody knows of someone in the hospital, like for a Shabbos meal, you just said, would they call up the Bikur Cholim organization and say, so on and so forth is in the hospital, and are there deliveries? Like, what's the activation process in getting this?
So everything goes through. Actually, I'm sitting right now here in the Bikur Cholim headquarters, and basically the process is very simple. We have a hotline, and the hotline is answered 24/7, 365. We have even Shabbos Yom Tov. It's answered for emergencies, but everything goes through one basic, phone line, and that is the process. Usually, the preferred method is that the family member will call in. Like this, we have an accurate idea of what the patient needs or what the family needs, and that's how it's run. Basically, through the hotline, a family member call in, say, hey, I have a family member in, just take a hospital, whether it's a Monmouth Hospital, Jersey Shore Hospital, or any of the hospitals that we service, and we will follow through on the request, and any request for a service that we provide, we, Baruch Hashem, have been able to follow through on.
Wow. How many employees does the Bikur Cholim have? And it seems to be quite a.
So we have a very large team of employees. I don't know what the current number. I would think it's probably in the 30 to 40 range of our current paid employees. But we have an army of hundreds. I think it's between 400 and 500 volunteers. Literally, I can't describe to you how many different services the volunteers do, from preparing the meals to driving handy rides to delivering equipment, everything you can imagine. And the calls start literally from Matzah Shabbos right after Abdullah and goes till literally candle lighting. We have volunteers on the road doing mitzvahs and chesed straight through the week.
Amazing. So I kind of cut you off there when talking about the food. It was sounding very delicious. So, but can you give us a sense what other services you mentioned? Equipment. What kind of equipment are you talking about that the
So
provides?
we have a equipment. I don't know if we want to say garage because it's like a bad term to use. It's not really a garage. It's a full sized warehouse of equipment, anything and everything from canes, crutches, wheelchairs, walkers, commodes, Hoyer lifts, hospital beds, oxygen concentrators, anything and everything you can imagine. All again given out free of charge. We have vans that the larger equipment's loaded up, and volunteers will deliver it to patients' home, set up a full hospital, literally a full hospital setup in a patient's home. And then smaller items like wheelchairs, canes, crutches, knee scooters, those type of medical equipment, typically people pick up in our warehouse and they drop it off. Everything has a barcode on it. It's run like a warehouse. It's a real professional operation, and it's a tremendous service because sometimes insurance will provide part of the equipment that a patient needs, or they won't provide a specific piece of medical equipment that the patient desperately needs, and they will call us and we'll try to help. The volume of calls is very, very heavy in the equipment department, and I can't even tell you some of the feedback that we've gotten. It's not just a help; it's like a lifesaver. We have just for one example that comes to mind: the power recliners that a patient borrows, and it's the difference between a patient living their life normally and being able to get in and out of a chair, as opposed to being stuck. And it's just a lifesaver. There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, no doubt. So obviously, you just mentioned the food and the equipment, and imagine there's other things as well. I think you described transportation that the Bikur Cholim offers, helping people. But do you have either minibuses or vans picking people up and taking them to doctor visits or hospital? Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have a fleet of about, I think, at least 10 vehicles, and we have different types of vehicles. We have handy vans, which are, you've probably seen some of them on the road. They're the type of vehicle where you can take a patient in a wheelchair onto the back, and there's like a lift, and they'll put the patient in the back of the van. And we have a number of those vehicles, which, let's say you have a patient that needs to get to a doctor's visit or a family simcha. Our volunteers will drive over, pick up the patient, drive them to where they need to go, and later pick them up, take them back. So we have a number of those handy vehicles. We also have, like I mentioned, equipment vans. We have a whole fleet, which includes equipment vans. We also have food vans, refrigerated vans, which we use to deliver and pick up food. We also have unmarked vehicles, which we use for what's called VIP rides, very important patients, which are patients who are unfortunately going through like cancer and very serious illnesses, and they need to get to doctor's visits, and it's more comfortable for them to go in unmarked vans. The vans and all our vehicles are really beautiful and state of the art. There's no like old schleppy vehicles. Everything is really just done in the nicest of ways. We also have a shuttle that goes every day into New York City to take patients to doctor's visits and to take patients' families to visit their relatives in Manhattan. And we have a shuttle that goes twice a day to Monmouth Hospital, which is local here in New Jersey, and that goes twice a day as well. So that's our fleet, and it's also, again, like I said, a lifesaver for a patient and a family member going through, whatever they're going through. Just knowing that transportation is taken care of is tremendous. We do also Ubers and Lyfts for patients that are, not able to get to hospitals. Obviously, everything is done in, a way that makes sense. It's not just, free for all, like, just, no cheshbon. People call in, there's, a secretary that answers and coordinates transportation, and everything is done in a way that really works. And Baruch Hashem, it's a tremendous help for so many families and really a lifesaver as well.
Well, it sounds amazing. The breadth and the width of the and the scope of the chesed. So, which leads me to my next question, and I imagine maybe on the minds of some of our listeners tonight, and that is that you mentioned also that the Bikur Cholim doesn't charge for any of the services. So obviously, we know that someone has to pay for it. So give us a sense. First of all, what is the I don't know if it's an appropriate question to get just ballpark figure
all questions are appropriate.
Okay, the annual budget, and how does this wonderful organization get funded?
Okay, so it's a great question, and the answer is the budget today is over $5 million a year. The budget was significantly less prior to something called COVID-19. At that point, our operation really just grew tremendously, and it just never came down. The amount of services we were providing through that time period was tremendous and sort of brought us on to the next level, and we've been on that level since. So actually, a service that we provide that we didn't discuss, and when you're asking about the funding, so I want to discuss this service we provide is also accommodations. We have a number of houses near hospitals, locally and in New York City and other places like by the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, that Bikur Cholim of Lakewood runs. And these are also, again, all free of charge, and patients for undergoing treatments in these hospitals and the family members can stay free of charge, and it's Shabbos and Yom Tov friendly, obviously. And a patient who's in the hospital, the family member doesn't have to sleep in an uncomfortable, cot next to them. They can sleep in what's really a beautiful, looks like a boutique hotel. And I think, when you came, you saw some of the rooms that we have over here in Lakewood, because we're across the street from Monmouth Medical Center South, and we have similar accommodations in numerous other places. We have two in Manhattan. We have a whole network of what's called the friendship houses, and those are generously sponsored. The houses and the upkeep by Mr. and Mrs. David Lichtenstein of Muncie, who is really tremendously kind, and there are no words to properly describe how much thought goes into each one of these friendship houses. And they sponsor these friendship houses and really make sure that not only patients have where to stay, but have the nicest place to stay. So that part of our budget is covered generously by the Lichtensteins. The general budget of Bikur Cholim is primarily funded from the goodness of Klal Yisrael, the generosity of Yidden, and I can't even describe to you how special really the response we get when we ask, and we don't ask. I'll give you an example. This afternoon, a friend of mine called me and he says, Meyer, usually, it's you asking and me, answering. Today, I'm going to do the other way. I'm going to offer even before you get a chance to ask. What can I do to help Bikur Cholim? And this is really what Klal Yisrael is all about, just giving and giving and giving. And whether it's small donations of kids running a lemonade stand to Baruch Hashem, large donors who are giving, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, we have seen tremendous Siyat D'Shmaya and just really such warmth from the community. The budget is really, for the most part, taken care of by Klal Yisrael. It's just people giving and giving and giving. Obviously, people who have benefited from the services have a tremendous support, and many of them give. We have kiosks, credit card donations in the Bikur Cholim that people give there, and people call up. We run a number of different campaigns throughout the year, and people respond very generously to these campaigns. And Baruch Hashem, it's really just humbling to see how Klal Yisrael, responds.
Amazing. It seems that we have a couple of questions from some of our listeners. I just want to mention one of them first, and that is that you're talking about a very large community with a very large organization, the Bikur Cholim. So I think Lakewood probably, this is a separate conversation, it's probably one of the largest growing Jewish communities, Orthodox Jewish communities in the country now, and the Bikur Cholim, understandably, is robust and large and vibrant and has a $5 million budget. We are here in Jacksonville, Florida, on probably a different side of the spectrum. I won't say completely on the opposite side, because there are smaller communities than Jacksonville, believe it or not. But we're from the smaller communities. So for a small community that doesn't have such a robust Bikur Cholim organization, or a community that's even thinking, such as ours, are thinking about just starting out, what would you recommend in terms of priorities, and what would you recommend how to, move things along in a positive direction?
So I think, again, it's hard for me to say because I wasn't here when Bikur Cholim was founded, before my time. I came in later in the game. But I think the priorities are, whatever the major needs are. In other words, whatever people are requesting, whatever patients and their families have, requested. If there's, for example, patients that are asking for kosher food in the hospital, they can't get, food. So that would be the priority. If there is a need for medical equipment, so that would be the priority. I think whatever the requests are, basically, I think the way Bikur Cholim of Lakewood grew, and many of the Bikur Cholims grew, is based on what the community's needs are, what the community's requests were, and as you see what people have been asking for, you grow out and you grow larger based on where the needs are.
So basically, to every community, you would recommend, in our case, to take a look at what our most pressing needs are, and to assess based on that how to provide solutions. Let me ask another one. Of our other listeners had asked, I guess this is going back to the impetus or trigger for creating this organization. The question is, how did it start up? If you can give us a little bit of, I guess, brief history, so to speak, Bikur Cholim of Lakewood.
So I can't really answer to exactly what the trigger was for creating such an organization, because I wasn't living in Lakewood even at the time, and I certainly wasn't working for Bikur Cholim of Lakewood at the time. My understanding is that the organization was started by a group of women, actually, I think, who just saw that there was a need for patients to have food, and they started cooking, out of one of the ladies' homes and providing it. So it really started up, I guess you would call, very mom and pop, as they saw a need. And as the organization grew, they brought on Rabbi, who was the director of Bikur Cholim, and he grew out the organization even larger. And as he saw, additional needs, he added additional services. So really, I think the trigger was just the basic, requests that were coming in. And that's really how it started and continued from there. And it snowballed into what it is today.
Understood. Let me go back to the organization itself from Bikur Cholim of Lakewood. Yeah, considering the theme of our show is called Journeys of Challenge. So it sounds like there's a vast array of services, a vast array of resources that Bikur Cholim has, but I imagine there are certain things that are still challenging for maybe, I don't know, you personally or the organization. Like, what are some of the challenges that the Bikur Cholim of Lakewood faces? Are there certain things that you are trying to provide that are not, you don't necessarily have? Like, is there a wish list? Are there unmet needs? What are some of the challenges of the organization as unfortunately, you probably know this way better than me, there's of the great need that there is within the Cholim community?
So it's an interesting question because, Baruch Hashem, I think for the most part, whatever we say that we do, in other words, whatever services we say that we provide, believe it or not, we're really providing. And we're not just providing it, but based on the feedback, it seems that people are pretty happy with it. So I would say if you were asking what the biggest challenge is, probably is not knowing, what else there is that we can do. In other words, what additional services might be needed. And part of what's going on now in Lakewood, as I'm sure everyone knows, is, there's this tremendous amount of people moving to Lakewood from all across the globe. And as the senior community is growing, the needs are going to be greater. And it's hard to know what the services that the community may need. So I would say probably one of the biggest challenges is always, just knowing what it is that we're going to need to provide. I mean, the last few years, as you well know, the world was hit with something that was never hit before, which was called COVID-19. And that was something that Bikur Cholim was really, I think, at the forefront in many ways. We were involved in tremendous amount of Atzalas Nefashos, saving many lives, and just coming up with every and any way to help people through that very difficult time, which probably I think was one of the hardest times in Klal Yisrael's history for many different reasons. So we were actually interviewed by, for this podcast, that was probably our most prestigious when we had national TV interviews. So they asked.
This is pretty national, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So before this one, that was our highest. Now this is at the top. So they asked us, like, how do you know how to be prepared for, what was coming? And what I answered, and I think that somewhat answers to your question as well, is that this is what Jews do. And we're always looking to help, and we're always looking to come up with new ways to be there for the patients and their families. And this was all that on steroids. And, if your core mission is always just to try to come up with any new way and just any creative way to help more people. So when a challenge or something that you haven't encountered before comes your way, you just take whatever you've been doing and you just take it to the next level. So I think you're right. We're going to be dealing with challenges that we never saw before. Our community is going to grow to size that we've never, had to deal with before. But Baruch Hashem, we hope to, with tremendous Siyata Shema, to continue to do whatever we can to rise to those challenges and to answer any and every call that we get, and to really just be there for the community with whatever resources we have.
Wow. Is there any particular, maybe short story that you can share with some of the highlights, the example of what the Bikur Cholim does about with a personal, recollection of one of the I'm not sure the correct word is clients or demographics that Bikur Cholim engaged, something that you say, this is a success story of what we do. Anything that come to mind?
So I'll tell you what it is. Let me see. Hold on. I'm going to go off camera for 1 second and I'll bring it in. Hold on 1 sec. Okay, so I'm back. So this is, we always like to do, not just an answer, but we do with a visual. So Bikur Cholim of Lakewood gives, we put this out, and I hope I could try to get it close to the camera, show you what we do. We put out in the Bikur Cholim rooms for patients and their families everything you can need for Shabbos, from a becher to these candles, which we created to be able to light with a bracha. If you're stuck in a hospital, you can't light a fire. To benchers, to cutlery, china. We have besamim, salt, tablecloth. We have the tablecloths on the bottom, but this is a challah cover. So if you want to know something that people tell me, and I find this to be really one of the most special things that Bikur Cholim does, is besides just providing all these basic services, it's the small things. It's the being in the hospital and knowing that I have a becher, being in the hospital knowing that I have besam, that I have Shabbos, that my Shabbos is not just, finding some crackers, but having the small things. We have in each one of the Bikur Cholim rooms, Siddurim, Chumashim, Svarim, and the newspapers, the Yeted, the Hamadiyah, Bina, Circle, give us every week the papers that the patient and the family member in the hospital, they're not missing any part of Shabbos, whatever they would have in their home.
Including the From newspapers.
Only the From newspapers. The New York Times hasn't donated papers to us yet. But like anything and everything you could imagine that you'd have in your Shabbos, in your home, these are all things that you're going to have in a Bikur Cholim of Lakewood room. And these are all things that, based on the feedback that I get, make the patient experience that much more, just comfortable and just really makes it so much easier, because a patient's going through so much. Our goal is to make it as much, as we're able to our ability, a little bit more, doable, a little bit easier. Just take away a little bit of that tsar and everything they're going through, and just make it a little bit easier for them.
Right, and that's really spot on, because sometimes you think about what does it matter, but someone has to stress out, what am I going to make Havdalah, or how am I going to get grape juice, and as they're dealing with treatments and doctors and just taking care of these small things removes a stress from a certain amount of stress from the patient and their families. And that Shabbos box really looks fantastic, and I'm sure you get great feedback. And we actually have feedback from one of our listeners asking if I don't know if this wasn't part of the original arrangement, but seeing the Shabbos box, if we can somehow just get a complimentary one so we can study it. And
absolutely, it'll be our pleasure. And the real truth is something I feel very much, and I think anyone, you're also in Baruch Hashem, the Clay Kodesh line, that there's no competition. There's really a belief, and I find this very much because I'm very close to many other people who work for many other organizations, that we're all working for the same boss. It's all really for Hashem, and we're all employed by the same boss. And if there's a way that we can help other organizations, or whether it's other Bikur Cholims or other nonprofits, we're here to help, and they're here to help us, and we share resources all the time, and we have just such a good working relationship with so many other organizations that do similar work, whether it's in our community or it's in other communities, just to be able to work hand in hand to really be able to help people, because at the end of the day, there's no competition.
Wow. Well, very well said. Very well said. So, we're just getting ready to wrap things up over here, and I just want to once again, this is the way we started out, and I apologize to our listeners for some of the technical difficulties we had when we were starting the show. But I started talking about this week's Parsha with Abraham, and he's visited by angels after his bris milah at an elderly age, and how I guess you can say mitzvah goreres mitzvah. Then he went into achnosos orchim, and really sounds that you and your organization are really following, within the path of Avram Avinu, and here we are, thousands of years later after Abraham, and it's heartwarming to hear like the values of Avram Avinu being practiced in such a profound and meaningful way. So I just want to give you a yasher koach for all the amazing work that you're doing for Klal Yisrael, and all the amazing work that Bikur Cholim is doing for Klal Yisrael. It's a model organization, and we all, not just here in Jacksonville, but all communities can learn from this and the best practices. And as we all think about what we can do to help someone in a very difficult situation, just to make their life a little less painful or stressful, a little less challenging. We've learned a very great deal from you tonight. So I just want to thank you for coming on and taking time out of your busy schedule, and just want to wish you a bracha of having much more continued hatzlacha and all your amazing avodas hakodesh.
Thank you for having me on, and really appreciate getting the opportunity to spend time with you. And if I could just end off, you were speaking of Rum, but it goes through the generations. I think we're both Talmidim, both by the Rosh Yeshiva of Long Beach or Yitzhak Begelstock, and later in the Meir Yeshiva by Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel. I think those two great Rebbeim that we both shared taught us that we're not put on this earth, just to take care of ourselves and to take care of our own families. Our goal, and we saw this, I think, from both of them, and something that I think Baruch Hashem, Klal Yisrael really excels in, and really, it's our supposed to be able to help people. And I thank you for having us on. And our bracha is that you should continue to do all the good work. And Mr. Shem, everyone there should just stay safe. Everyone should just really, really be okay. We're a little nervous, so we'll say an extra tefillah for you guys over there.
Yeah, Tropical Storm Nicole is about to pay us a visit, so we don't want to be too hospitable to Nicole. But once again, thank you for your time, and much continued bracha and hatzlacha to all your amazing avodas hakodesh.
Amen. Thank you for helping us, spread our message. Appreciate it.
Have a great one.
You too. Thank you.